Neil's Han Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Buy some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is all for bull fun. Not it's just bull crap. It's for fun, not for profit or health, and no financial advice. Just good, solid advice. Having said all that, I just came across this cool thing, and I've been said it. I said there's going to be zero inflation in 2026, and the deficit will start getting paid off. We were like, ah, you're an idiot, you're a quack, you're a nut. Yeah, okay. And let's see what. Oh, where is it at? I didn't save it up. Okay, hold on a second here. I got to get over here to present this video playlist. Playback videos. Give me just a second, and I will have it ready for y'all. Yes, here it is. All right. Now I can share the screen because I have something to share. What's up, millions? You're going to love this one, brother. It's straight up from the Treasury.
The deficit to GDP
Hold
now
on.
has a 5.
Important to areas like where I'm from in rural communities, 12 to 24 months. And what key risks and opportunities should they be thinking about and looking out for as they're thinking about how to shape their businesses going forward?
Well, I come with some good news
What's
this
up,
morning.
Carlos?
And Treasury, because of the Schumer shutdown, will not be able to release the exact numbers, but the CBO jumped the gun a bit, and it was on Bloomberg this morning that the deficit for this fiscal year, ending September 30th, will be slightly lower. When I went to see President Trump and more importantly, the deficit to GDP now has a 5 in front of it. So according to the CBO numbers, and we don't have the Treasury numbers yet, the deficit to GDP will have fallen from about 6.5%, which was the highest when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession in U.S. history, to 5.9%. When I went to see President Trump approximately 2 years ago to tell him that I'd like to come out from behind my desk and get involved with the campaign, not going to repeat many private conversations, but this was particularly notable. He looked at me, first thing he said, Scott, how are we going to get the debt and deficits down and not cause a recession? And we're on our way. I think we saw that today. So I think the president's economic policy, as many of you would have seen me say before, is a three-legged stool: trade, tax, and deregulation. The tax bill, the one big beautiful bill, has incentives for both corporate America in terms of full expensing for plant property and equipment, and the plant part is new. In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017, there was full expensing for equipment, but we have added structures for both industrial structures and, importantly, agricultural structures. So, secondly, on the other side of the ledger, it also includes the president's tax policies or campaign promises for working Americans: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, low tax on Social Security, and interest deductibility if you buy an American car. I think one of the things that we are seeing now, most taxpayers have not changed their withholding stance to reflect this. So we expect to see substantial tax refunds beginning of next year, which I think will be accrue to lower end consumers for the bottom 50% who need the relief. And concurrently, they will change their withholding schedule so their real take-home pay will be higher next year. On the trade deals, I think one of the underreported aspects of the trade deals is not only are we taking in substantial tariff revenue, for our American exporters, we have brought down non-tariff trade barriers and brought down tariffs across the board. So with many of the deals that we have gone from high tariff levels, and I tell you, like, for instance, Indonesia was very good about bringing down their tariff levels, but when they showed you the list of 9,000 tariffs that they had, you couldn't believe it. So, and like President Trump said, I don't blame the Indonesians for doing it. You blame the folks who were sitting at the Resolute desk for letting it happen. So on trade, we're landing the trade deals. That will increase certainty. And then finally, on deregulation, we've talked a lot about financial deregulation, but we're also talking about energy and industrial deregulation. We're trying to make it easy to build things here again in America, whether it's permitting for factories, for pipelines, for the electric grid. So I think I'm very optimistic that 2026 could be a very good year across the corporate and the consumer economy.
Well, thank you for that. You've been very busy since you got started earlier this year. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a very optimistic view about how the economy will be evolving, I think, in the relatively near future. Thinking about that, community banks are critical in providing local and regional credit throughout their community. Through small towns, through rural areas, and in underserved markets especially. So you talked a little bit about what some of the initiatives are that Treasury's been working on with the prudential regulators. Are there other areas that you'd like to focus on? Or to share with us today that might be helpful for bankers to know?
Well, as you said earlier, I may be one of the few, if not the only Treasury Secretary who's given this much emphasis to community banks, probably the only Treasury Secretary since the 17 or 1800s who lives, well, there wouldn't have been farm radio, but is also a farmer. So I remember listening to farm radio right after the Silicon Valley debacle or the three-bank debacle, and they were talking about the risk to community banks that were happening, that could be happening here. And I was just struck by what the presenter was saying. He said, the big banks, they're going to come in, they're going to buy up our banks. They don't play Little League Baseball with your son. They don't play softball with your daughter. They don't go to your place of worship. They don't know you from the Rotary Club. What are we going to do? And so we are committed. As I said, I'd like to see us getting back to de novo banks. Again, it's a sign that when you see creation of something, it's a sign that the ecosystem's healthy. So we want to get back to de novo. We want to get back to leveling the playing field. I think these transaction accounts are very important. We try at Treasury, we try to meet with dozens of community banks, whether it's one-on-one or in groups every month. And one of the main asks that we got was increasing the non-interest bearing transaction account. So we've been working very closely with Senator Tim Scott on that. And I think we haven't landed the exact amount yet, but I think that that legislation is going to move through.
Well, it's wonderful to hear some progress in some of these areas that have been a topic of conversation for a number of years. So thank you for your support in working towards some solutions in that regard. Later today, we're going to have a panel of community bankers to talk about capital and liquidity regulations. So I wondered if you might be willing to share your views and thoughts about how we could appropriately calibrate those capital and liquidity levels, especially for community banks, but maybe more broadly across the banking system to be more effective for economic growth and how to support the economy going forward.
Well, I think if we take a step back, we could see that the substantial amount of credit that is being grown outside of the regulated banking system tells you that the regulatory framework that was developed post Dodd-Frank is too tight, and that there is this substantial arbitrage to be done, whether it's vis-a-vis big banks, whether it's small banks. Why do we have private credit that is bundling loans and then receiving lines of credit from banks? Let's get back to the primary lending function. Let's make capital more risk-based. Let's understand that there's a lot of work to do in terms of bringing this back down to common sense levels. In terms of knowing your client, in terms of releasing what I would say is this regulatory straitjacket. And famous last words, I think private credit is a dynamic new aspect that increases the depth and breadth of the U.S. financial system, but it can't be to the detriment of the regulated system, because my real worry with private credit is everyone in this room, all the bankers, and look, I met a lot of banks who've been going since the 1800s. And if you've been going since the 1800s, you know a lot about risk management. You know how capital works. You know how your clients are. My worry with private credit is it could be very pro-cyclical, that without stable deposits, in terms of if there were a downturn, the way Treasury, Federal Reserve would work together would be with window guidance, would be with regulatory lessening the regulatory parameters, and to restart the economy in a counter-cyclical basis. So we also want to look at that. And again, too, a lot of the things we want to do, we want to make it easier to operate. We had a small community bank from South Carolina in a couple of weeks ago in one of our panels. I think it was 185 million of assets, 17 employees. I think 5 were for compliance. So, and no one is more focused right now on financial crimes. Our FinCEN department is 24/7 in terms of what we are trying to work on, but we're also trying to add a common sense layer. Can we do geographic targeting? If we see that a huge amount of the narco finance is along the border, should we lower SARs there and raise them everywhere else to avoid all this regulatory expense?
Well, I think that's a very important topic for many community bankers as they think about some of the regulatory burden and requirements that they're not sure what happens to once they send it forward. One thing I want to just pull a thread on is you mentioned the importance of ensuring that we have the ability as regulators and bankers are not disincentivized from participating in different types of activities. One thing I would point to, and I have many times over the years, is to talk about how important it is that we're pulling some of of these activities back into the regulated financial system, especially real estate lending and mortgage servicing and things of that nature. So I know many of these bankers in the room are hopeful that we'll be able to think about that differently. So when you discuss the regulatory perimeter, I think that's a very positive path for discussion, and we'll look forward to engaging on that.
And look, I mean, no one knows when you talk about real estate, no one knows the real estate landscape like local bankers.
Absolutely.
It's maybe there's some banks around the Ozarks who like lending down in Florida, but I hope they're successful. But I will tell you that community banks. I'm sure all of you.
Your favorite movies are on YouTube. Enjoy the latest releases.
Read all the news reports. Oh, community banks hold all the small community banks. It's going to be a debacle. They hold all these CRE loans, and for 15 or 20 years, initial 15 or 20 years of my career, I was a banks and insurance analyst. So I know how banks work. I may seem exciting, but I used to read state insurance call reports.
Those are fascinating.
Gripping is the only word. But I can tell you that to the extent I was successful was being fact-based and not narrative-based. And as we dug down on what was supposed to be a CRE wipeout for community banks, it turned out that they really weren't CRE loans, that they were business loans. And we just went out and talked to small and community bankers. They were business loans where the business person put up their building as collateral. So you didn't have a loan on a part of a strip mall. You didn't have a loan on a pod. It was an accounting firm that was financed. You had a loan to an accounting firm. You had a loan to a law firm. You had a loan to a medical practice. So, and only community banks know that.
Well, it's refreshing, again, to hear the Treasury Secretary talk about community banking in a way that helps us recognize that you do have a background in it and that you're serious about the words that you're saying in support of community banking. So thank you for your commitment to that and for sharing that with everyone here today. One thing everybody's a little bit concerned about going forward is the shift in the technological landscape. And banks for a long time have been innovating. It's been a hallmark of the community banking framework in their survival since the 1800s, which I have to say thank you for mentioning banks that were founded in 1800s, because my family's bank was chartered in 1882. So that's a little peace of mind here that you think that they're well, they understand their risks. So that's I'll have to share that with my cousin. But on innovation, banks have been partnering with fintechs for a number of years now, and we continue to add more and more requirements about third-party risk management, and oftentimes they don't make sense, or they conflict with each other, or they contradict what the requirements are. As we're thinking about how the landscape with technology, with AI, with stable coins and other types of new business services and activities are being brought forward through the sponsorship of legislation and new regulatory frameworks for stablecoins and things like that. Today we have the Robinhood CEO and also the Paxos CEO to share their views on how community banks can engage or think about how that will look going forward. But how do you see the role of technology evolving in the banking sector, and what policy levers do you think that we could use to help ensure that community banks can compete effectively in the new technology environment?
Well, I think it was very important. If I look, one of the biggest regulatory changes from the Biden administration to the Trump administration, there have been a lot of them, is our emphasis on AI and digital assets. Because AI in the Biden administration was governed by diffusion. They were going to treat it somewhat like the nuclear program, keep it in a box. They were going to hand it to Google, Microsoft, Meta, and that was life. On the other side, digital assets had a near extinction event with Wells notices going out to many companies banks prohibited from opening accounts. And I think the fact that we're creating, the term is sandbox, where there's a lot of experimentation, where there are a lot more offerings, and for community banks not to be locked in that they have to use like one of 3 dominant service providers, that for a wider range, supply will push down price, choice will inform. Community bankers are, and the owners, whether they're family-owned banks, whether the shareholders are usually in the vicinity, and I think that they will be laser focused on the new technologies. And just like with the credit card companies, I think that new payment rails will exist, and I think we have to make sure that it's open for everybody. JP Morgan, Bank of America may have their own stable coin, but I think it's very easy, and you'll hear, you have 2 great participants, that you will hear that for community bankers to join together, whether it's in some kind of a cooperative program, whether, but you can private label these under your own name, and it doesn't necessarily have to increase deposit beta. The other thing we're going to do, because we value community banks, we are going to make sure that any new regulation is done in a safe, sound, and not abrupt manner. That there will be a transition and everyone will be able to understand it and participate in it.
Great. Well, I think that's wonderful news for all of our CEOs in the room and everyone listening virtually. I think it's important, as you said, that all banks can participate in this new economic environment, and that we're creating a framework that will allow for safe and sound engagement, as well as ensuring that whatever customers are interested in doing, that banks have that opportunity through a sandbox. That's an excellent idea, and it's great to go back to those ideas from the first Trump administration, where we were actively engaging with office hours, where we would bring in fintechs and bankers to talk about how they wanted to expand businesses in a way that was appropriate and met our expectations.
And I also think too, how many people in this room's first savings account was a Christmas club at the local bank? Right. So, are we going to develop the new kind of crypto Christmas club? I like that.
Well, that's an interesting idea, yeah.
CCC, Crypto Christmas Club. and because I do think one of the great things about crypto is it's bringing young people into the markets, into the financial industry, and I think that community banks that will be at the front line of providing that. You have a natural advantage in terms of going into the schools, in terms of financial education, in terms of financial literacy. I think Mickey's heard me deep dark secret that a lot of people from South Carolina have it. I have a Dr. Pepper every morning for breakfast. I'm not allowed to do it at home, which used to take me to the Circle K on Meeting Street in Charleston, South Carolina. And in there'd be a lot of young construction workers getting ready to go to work. They'd see me dressed like this, and they'd be playing the lottery. They'd say, "Mister, when I win the lottery, will you manage my money?" I said, "Well, the first thing you can do is not play the lottery." But imagine if that group that were involved in digital assets, if they've been putting that $20 of their hard-earned money from construction work, from their blue-collar jobs, into digital assets over this time, and it's going to be community banks that do it. It's not going to be the big national banks. So I think that to be able to cater to that audience is going to really provide opportunity for a lot of growth.
With YouTube Music Premium, listen to your favorite songs ad-free.
Well, I got to say that my theory has always been you can't win if you don't play. So whatever venue that is, I look forward to seeing how all of those things evolve over the next 10, 20 years, maybe even sooner. But before I ask you the last question about the future of community banking, I want to just touch on some of the legislative proposals that are being considered. There's a big groundswell of discussion about asset thresholds, potentially changing when and how certain regulatory requirements will apply to community banks and other banks of other sizes, including regional banks. How's Treasury thinking about those proposals, and what principles should guide those thresholds as legislators and as regulators are thinking about those going forward?
Well, I think we should think about it in two ways. One, we always think about it inflation adjustments, whether it's for Social Security, sometimes for capital gains. So there's probably a big catch-up to do in terms of asset thresholds. Just the economy's grown, the asset size has grown for bank lending, and like I said, we want to bring it back into the regulated system. So I think that it will be natural to raise many of these thresholds. But then I think you also have to look at what's your book of business, that how risky in terms of how have you grown your balance sheet. Does it look like something like Silicon Valley Bank, that with a lot of deposit beta? So yeah, I think it's those two, but I definitely believe that we do need a substantial increase in terms of the regulatory levels, and maybe even an increase from the 10 billion. When does the Fed get involved?
I think those are really great topics of conversation. And I think more and more I'm having discussions, as I'm sure you are too, with regional banks who are being frozen at a certain asset level size so that they're not crossing that $100 billion threshold, or a community banker that's being frozen just below 10 billion in assets, simply because so many different thresholds of many kinds and different regulations and statutes bite.
Or one of the
at that
banks we
point.
had come in, and you would think that if a long-standing big customer came in and put a big deposit in at the end of the year, you'd be excited, but they would, no, we can't take it because it's going to push us over 500 million,
Right.
and then the trigger there. So we want to make sure that you're able to grow without setting off these regulatory tripwires.
Well, I look forward to chatting with you about that going forward and seeing how all of us as in the regulatory space can think about how we can more effectively allow banks to manage for their growth and their size, especially when they're not changing their business model. But finally, on the topic of the future of community banking, over the next 5 to 10 years, how do you see the biggest structural shifts occurring, and how do you think community banks will evolve to meet those challenges in the future? One of the questions that we're asking all of our keynote speakers today is, what does the community bank of 2025 look like?
2025 or 2035?
Oh, sorry, 2035, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. Yes, 2035. It is already 2025.
So the ones that make it through the next 10 years will have embraced technology, have embraced financial modernization, and as I said earlier, I think we'll have brought along a whole new generation of young people into the financial world. Because look, there's a whole group just because of the bad calendar. And they lived through the GFC, they lived through COVID. But when I interact with them, they're curious, they want to be part of the system, and it will have been that. And I think that we will see I don't know if the branch model is as big as it was. We'll see with that. But I think it's all going to center around technology. And so that's the importance of low-cost technological alternatives for the next 10 years,
Not just for 2025.
not just for 2025. Oh,
Yeah, I think one of the wonderful experiences that we've seen over the past throughout COVID and the Paycheck Protection Program was that we have an amazing industry of community banks that are willing to bend over backwards to ensure that they can support their communities. And I look forward to seeing, hopefully we won't have another experience like COVID where we're asking banks to be, the sole provider of fiscal support or loans for their small businesses to keep their economies running and people employed. But I think it's a wonderful recognition of everything that community banks have done over the past at least 5 years to keep our economy running, to keep our people employed in rural communities and in urban communities as well. But thank you for the support that you provided.
Yeah, and I think that the other big opportunity is going to be what I saw in the local market in Charleston, South Carolina, was when Boeing came in. Boeing doesn't need, other than people in this building, they don't need to bank with anyone in this room. But when Boeing's second largest production facility came in, there was an ecosystem of more than 200 small factories that sprung up. And the small and community banks, some of the small regionals, all moved into Charleston, and they bank every one of those small factories. Some of the factories, some of these startup businesses that have 50, 100, 200 employees. So with this administration's effort to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., I would say when we see, we're talking about bringing back the semiconductor industry, they need 500 companies around them to do that. When we see this precision manufacturing, when you see a multinational company set up, they are going to need a big ecosystem. And the ecosystem, JP Morgan's not interested in the ecosystem, and I think everybody in this room should be.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us and celebrating the agility and flexibility of community banks to solve problems and to meet needs where they arise quickly. And we look forward to the rest of our day today, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, Secretary Bessent.
Thank you.
Ooh, look at that platinum. Holy cow, have you ever seen something prettier? Yeah, you have. Look at this. Holy cow. $74 silver. What? Oh, that's Aussie price. Sorry, didn't mean to get y'all excited. Actually, I did that intentionally. Did it catch anybody? Oh, you can't see it. It's too small. My bad.
Hey guys, just hang in there. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Uh, Maybe I got to crank my microphone up a bit. See if that works. Mike says no. No, I don't hear you. So I think what happened, Neil, is you removed yourself from the studio. So there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you.
Oh, okay. That was new. I didn't know that you could hear me when my mug wasn't up there. Anyhow, this is a silver chart with it says keep buying. Let's go up here top. Yeah, 100-year silver inflation adjusted chart keeps telling an interesting story. Now, if you look here, they've got the 80s peak should have been at 110, not 50. So you see, this is insurance adjusted, not insurance, inflation adjusted. So, oh, maybe that'll get it bigger. There we go. So right now, I don't know why they say this line is a 17. This is an old chart, obviously, but silver has already gone up to about right here where my cursor's at, and it's going to go way past this. This number here, 1980 peak, is around $110, it says, with inflation adjusted. So inflation adjusted today is probably around $230. So silver has a very good chance of hitting three figures big time, in my opinion. And having said that, platinum is even more promising, but I haven't been able to find an inflation adjusted chart for platinum. But it should be up around 8,000 right now.
Yeah, that last chart that you showed was algorithmic.
Yeah.
On the x-axis there, which I think the x-axis is the vertical one. It was on the vertical anyway.
Yeah, I'm not good at showing charts and all that stuff. I do know what I'm talking about. I'm just not good at showing charts to back it up. That's why I show other people's videos. Because just like I said, deficit's going to get paid off and there's going to be zero inflation in 2026. I saw that video. I had to come up live and show that video. Even though no one likes the guy, I don't care. I didn't like the guy before him. I like what he's saying. Communal banks, that's good for America. I don't care about his smelly little butt. He can smell his butt all he wants, as long as he does good things for America. And community banking is good for Americans. And I like that idea. It gets away from central banking. So, like him, love him, or leave him, I like the direction he seems to want to take America in. And if you've noticed, the Treasury Department is being focused more on than the Fed. Did you say something, JM?
Yeah, I was going to say congratulations on getting your channel back.
Yeah, I had to delete one of my videos before they watched it, or else they'd have given me my third strike. So I'm running on 2 strikes right now. They hit me 1, 2, 3 back to back to back with strikes, man. I was going good for like 9 months, and all of a sudden, wham, wham, wham! I started talking about the economy and telling people the truth about the economy. And hello, they didn't like that.
That's actually surprising, because that's like a fairly generic.
Not what I was saying.
Well,
I was talking about value of wealth over just having wealth. Value over wealth, both having. If you have like $1 million, someone else has $1 million. One person has $1 million in cars and toys and what thing, and the other person has $1 million in a solid asset that gains money. One person is going to keep their money in 5 years. One person is going to be bankrupt. So there's a difference between wealth and value of wealth. And people don't understand the difference apparently, and they spend money on stuff that's value wealth.
I think so.
Ooh, that's a 2-ouncer, huh?
No, it's a 1 ounce.
Wow, that looks pretty thick.
Like concave or whatever.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay. That's thick on the outside.
Yeah, like it's.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be considered high relief, but maybe. The center part's really sunk in. You should be able to see it.
Oh yeah,
here.
A good 2 millimeters, maybe 3.
Yeah. That's just a generic or privately minted silver round. It's not an actual coin.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, good to see everybody.
Yeah, I still suggest everyone be buying platinum because it's going to blow your mind here in the next 12 months. And speaking of which, that's what I can show you. Let you know about what the heck I'm talking about. I was telling people about this one for quite some time. And it's, you brought up a lot of facts about this one and presented them, I believe, a couple times ago when you were up on stage about these people right here. Clean Air Metals, 66.066. Let's do 6 months. Oh, yeah, let's see. June, September, right around here. I was telling you guys to buy. So you're you're either 50% up or 100+% up on your money by the time I started talking about Clean Air Metals. And if you look, this little flat line right here that it drops back to, that's kind of sort of a new low. And hold on, right here, it looks like wants to start another one. So we need to see what the future looks like. Its new low might be 6 cents, which means it's climbing back up to 33 cents. So from 6 cents to 33 cents is well over 500%. I'd take a look at this stock, as you can see. And they around here, they started doing paperwork to transition from a exploration company to a mining company because they want to mine the platinum that they've discovered. And they've done all the appropriate paperwork. So this will be going way past this because back here, they were just a new exploration company. This is when they started putting out their paperwork saying, oh, we found it, but we're not drilling, we're not going to mine. We found more, we're going to start mining. Which way do you think that stock's going to go?
Yeah, I did not buy any shares in that, but I think that a few of your viewers or subscribers did.
I hope a lot of people did. You are going to make some serious money off that, not in the stock price increase, but that stock will eventually pay dividends. So if you can get it at 6 or 7 cents, buy a whole crap load of it. Because when it gets up to $4 or $5, it's going to pay 25-cent dividends for every share you have. How many shares do you want? How much money do you want in dividends? Yearly. That's what I look at that stock for. Hold on. I'm going to get you a little evidenciance. No, Impala. No, wrong Impala. There we go. That's the one I wanted. It's going to take a while. Loading. I will go ahead and start sharing screen while they're loading. This is Impala Mining Corporation, the second largest platinum miner on the planet. As you see back in, when was this? Hold on. Let's go all time. Okay, it is. Oh, there we go. All right, right here is where Clean Air Metals is. Right here, around this line. Because that's when Impala started out. They started out low. They're even down here. They're at $1. So they're way higher than Clean Air Metals. And then look at that chart. For 7 years, nothing but up. All the way up to right here, you would have got almost 900% on your money from 528 to 7 years, 8 years. You would have made, 115% on your money every year. That's what you can expect from Clean Air Metals. Now, after that, yeah, it will take the dips and it'll do this number and it'll do all this stuff. Right now, you're lucky. We can get it right in this area. Boom. That's the future of it. And how do I know that? Because that's the only other platinum miner. I can get you other platinum miner stocks. They look exactly the same as that. They're all in South Africa and they're all in Russia. They all look like that. This one's in Canada. Their stock's going to look like that. In 5 years, it's going to be around here. And you'll be like saying, crap, I wish I'd have bought that when it was 6 cents. And it'll be, oh, it's at $28. How much money do you think you can make on Clean Air Metals? That's a dividend paying stock. And now, there's some other good ones too. Hold on a second here. This is one I haven't talked about a lot. And there's a reason. You'll see that it's the same as MJNA. It's totally the same. It's just a different technology. This technology is a water-based technology. And as you can see back here in, when was this? 2001. It was like at $1 or something. Oh no, that's a low. It was at $6.82 back in December 2020. Now look at this. We're in 2025. So basically, from I don't know, past 16 years, it's been running at zero. It goes against Wall Street's rules of kicking out stocks that are non-performing after 5 years. So I looked at this and said, well, that's longer than 5 years. Why are they keeping them on? And if you research Seafarer Explorer, you'll find out they do underwater treasure hunting. Not only hunting, but finding and recovery. And if you know the story of Mel Fisher used dynamite to get his $100 billion, however much silver and gold from the Eustatia or whatever it was. He had to blow up reefs to get that. He used dynamite. Every country in the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America saw that and said, nope, you cannot blow up our reefs to get that treasure because we're only getting 10% of it. And we want our tourists, it's going to be longer. So they quit. That's why you haven't heard of anyone discovering any treasures, even though there's hundreds of billions of dollars in the Gulf of Mexico / America. Once this company here finishes and completes its project looks like a little manta ray, but it has all the metal detecting equipment needed for above ground, but water based. Not only that, they're doing extraction techniques to where they can drill a 4-inch hole into a coral reef and dig in, go in through that 4-inch hole and extract all of the treasure without damaging the reef. So once their technology is perfected, every country in the Gulf of Mexico / America that has treasures on their reefs will allow that company right there to mine it. And that'll be the only company in the world that's going to have a couple $1 billion worth of treasure listed on its, look what we found. How much do you think that stock's going to be worth? Right now, they're working with the federal and the Florida state government in the eastern side of Florida. There's a 30-mile stretch known as the Gold Coast where there's like 27 sunken treasure ships. They're working there with the federal and state regulatory agencies to perfect their equipment. And that's another reason why I like that stock, is because they're working with the federal government. And that kind of sort of, in my mind, explains how it could have been listed on Wall Street for 14 or 15 years at zero. It's just another one of those tells. I'm like, take a look at this one. And at that lower price, what's $50? But yet if it goes back up to its all-time high after they perfect their technology, which will be coming up in the next year or two, they will definitely be, you'll have that. Now that stock's one you just sell and get your money. You buy that stock, and when it goes up, you sell it and buy yourself 5 mansions and 3 cars and 2 islands and however much you put into it. Because that stock, in my opinion, is going to take off. Zero competition. No one else in the world is trying what they're trying. As soon as they perfect it, every country around the world that has a coral reef, Australia, that might have treasure underneath it, will be using that company. It'll also work in Europe. It'll probably work real well. Reason why they haven't found things in Europe is along the Atlantic is the tidal underwater current is not good for divers to go down and explore wrecks. So divers haven't been down there exploring wrecks. There's also a shitload of wrecks down off Spain, off England's west coast, off of northern, western Africa. Oh, and heaven forbid if they ever allowed to go into the China Sea with the many thousands of years that the Chinese and the Japanese were fighting with their old Wiccan boats that sunk in that little strait between China and Japan. Man, there's lots of treasures down there. Probably a lot of samurai swords.
I was thinking probably like in the middle of the ocean too, like not just off the coasts.
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing. You get yourself a piece of technology that can go underwater. You're set, man. There was a wreck called The Wreck of the Unbelievable, I believe, or the Unobtainable, Unbelievable or Unobtainable, something like that. It was in the Gulf, it was in the Mediterranean, and they were looking for this thing for years. And if you know the geography of the Mediterranean minus the water, it's like it's got a Grand Canyon type surface to the center of the Mediterranean. The rest of it's kind of sort of flat up to about 190 to 200 foot of water, and then it drops like 400 or 500 foot of water. And they found this wreck in the 400 to 500 foot of water. And till this day, I don't think they found a wreck that had more artifacts on it. It had like a 16-foot tall golden Medusa, a whole bunch of artifacts that were being taken from, I guess, Egypt to Rome or to Alexandria or Greece area, and the ship sank. And they just found it. They've got it in a museum in Greece. It still has the barnacles on it. Beautiful piece, but it was sunk in the middle of the Mediterranean. But they didn't have the technology to go down there until they used the robotic stuff. So your point, JM, very, very valid. But that company's going to take off. Clean Air Metals, it's going to take off and pay dividends. SFRX, it's a crypto. Within 5 years, they'll have 200x, 100x easy, 200 possibly. All your ISOs, look at the Swift 2.0 that they're coming up with. It includes a lot of the crypto. They're going to take off, whether you like it, love it, or leave it. You don't like crypto, fine. Don't make the money. But you can make money and take that money and do something good with it. You know, it's like, I don't like pig pork bellies. Never touched them in my life, but made some money off of them. You know what I'm saying? I don't really like them, but you know, back in the 80s, you were trading pork belly futures and making money. So what the hell? I dabbled. You know, I didn't eat it, but I made money off of it. So my attitude is, I don't have blinders on. If there's money to be made, that's the name of the game. Is this in this economy? Yeah, you can be happy without money, but you're going to be wet, cold, hot, miserable because you don't have a house, you don't have a roof over your head, you don't have the necessities because you don't have money. So basically, we're tied down to needing money. Consider it the devil's sin when we're in a sinful world. So you need money. The more money you have, the more comfortable you can be, and the more you can help other people. So if you have blinders on not to make money except for in certain asset class that you are tied to only, you're doing yourself and everyone else a disservice by not making more money. Because if you made more money and you're a helpful, kind, and grateful person, you'd be helping so much more if you had more. So go make more. Take the blinders off. Look at all asset classes. Look at the world around you and see how it's changing. This program I just brought you, of a 30-minute program of the Treasury Department head talking about community banking, deregulation, allowing community banks to thrive. That's going to make local populations wealthy. Position yourself accordingly. It's not going to happen overnight. Nothing. Well, crypto goes up and down overnight. Stock market crashes overnight. But pretty much other than that, nothing happens overnight. Maybe war. But even it builds up. It's a very useful tool. Excellent statement, Silver. It is one of the most useful tools. You know, don't care how you get that tool. If you need that tool to build that house, get that tool. You know? Very, very good point, Silver. I like that. Sorry for cutting you off, JM.
Hey, no worries, man. I'm actually at an offsite location right now, dog sitting, so I'm set up outside.
Oh, right on.
And right now, the hot tub just kicked in to warm up because it's cold here. It's almost down to freezing.
And you're in the hot tub?
I'm not in the hot tub because I'd get electrocuted.
Oh.
But I'll show you the setup. Hold on.
Hey, what's up, Linda?
Hey, Linda, good to see you. Let me just do this. Yeah, it's cold, man. I got my hat, my hoodie on. But
Oh, wow.
look
You got
there.
a
That's where I got
thing,
the
huh?
laptop sitting on the hot tub cover.
Nice.
Point is, I was muted up anyway because the hot tub's running right now. So I don't know. Can you hear that background?
Oh yeah, we hear the bubbling. It sounds like you're preparing for Halloween and making a witch's brew.
Yeah, right on.
That or you're making up some good alcohol. Home recipe fucking beer bubbling in the background.
It's kind of annoying because I have to keep adjusting my volume. You know, if cars go by or
You don't have to adjust your volume. You sound good. I haven't heard. Yeah, wait till someone complains.
I mean on my end so I can hear it.
Oh, okay.
It's all right. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I just thought I'd pop up and say hi to you. Congratulate you on getting your channel back. I know you're always pumping out good information. Sometimes the social media platforms don't like that.
Yeah, especially if you're going up against the big boys giving away information they're not ready or positioned to make money off of to push yet. I found that to be a problem too, because the information I give is like, it's not insider trading, but it's like the first person who gets off the insider train at the train station, I'm hearing it. So it's not insider trading, but it's real close. And a lot of people probably don't like that I get that information out and give it to everybody. But my theory is be kind, helpful, and grateful. And it doesn't matter if I can or cannot take advantage of any of these calls that I make. If William is still in the chat, he can tell you he took advantage of a call I made 3 years ago. Said he's up like 1,300% or 1,100%. I don't give financial advice. I do research. If I can afford to take advantage of it, I do. And I'll tell people. If I can't afford to take advantage of it, I tell people more because I want other people to make money off this crap. I mean, it pisses me off that I'm not making as much as I should, but that's my own fault because of choice of career and, you know, economy being as it is. My fault totally. I want you guys to make money on this. Research what I say and put it all together on your own. When you hit that epiphany, you'll be like, holy moly.
Yeah, Mike, I was just typing in the chat here that I showed you there's still a coffee I didn't finish yet. But I drink a lot of coffee in the morning, and then I still got it. I didn't get through this thermos, but I've already had a club soda. Mike was just saying he could go for a beer.
Right on.
I'll tell you, I know like Neil's not really into drinking at all
Nope.
or alcohol, but
I don't mind if others do as long as you control yourself, you know.
hopefully I don't get kicked off. But that's
Just control yourself, baby. I don't mind fun. I mind obnoxious fun. And typically when you've been, if you get too inebriated, the obnoxiousness comes out in people just naturally. Alcohol makes you less eloquent about saying what you really feel. Here we go.
true. Yeah, like some people use it as like a bit of a truth serum.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, but I was trying to be more eloquent and not use the word truth serum. But yeah, that's kind of sort of it. That's why you should never drink around kids.
But
If
it
you-
really lowers the intelligence and IQ of people once they're getting in, like especially if they're going into the hard stuff, you know, drinking the whiskey. all
That's
that
because
sort
your
of-
brain cells are the only cells that don't replicate in your body. And the way you catch your buzz off of alcohol is your brain cells exploding. Think about it.
that doesn't sound very beneficial.
Well, here's another fact. And you guys, please do research this. Everyone who dies of alcohol poisoning is found in a fetal position. Put everything together I just said. Think about it. What's the first sign of life? You're in a fetal position in your mom. If you kill your brain back to where it has no synapses pathways, except for the bare minimum, it's going to go back to its start, fetal position. Then it's going to stop. You're dead. You found dead in a fetal position because your brain cells exploded and you literally have no brain left. I mean, you do, but not a functioning one.
It's like the ultimate submission.
It's suicide.
Yeah.
It's literally suicide. But now, in moderation, it's not bad for you. But you started off with saying heavy drinkers, and that's the pathway for heavy drinkers. Trust me, I can talk about it. I was on that pathway. I gave it up 1996. I was at a place called Rum Runners, man. It was a bring your own alcohol. Opened at 2 a.m. after the titty bars closed. All the guys would haul off, go to this place along with the girls when they got off work. And I had a gallon of rum Friday or Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Boom, it was done. A gallon every weekend. It was only
gallon.
Yeah, I'll do it myself.
See, that's heavy duty.
Oh yeah, like I said, I can talk about it because I was there. I know, man. I partied with the defensive line of the Miami Dolphins back in 1989. I don't remember. I had to ask them what the fuck I did. And we were on the 3rd floor of the Holiday Inn on, what was it, Orange County Road, and they were staying there. I was staying there, and apparently one of them told me I was seen running down the hallway with a, what are those, curtain wrapped around me, chasing one of the cheerleaders who was half naked. I don't remember shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, drinking's for me, it's like, I don't know. I can't stop once I start, but my body keeps going and my mind shuts off. That's dangerous.
Yeah, that's another sign that you way overdid it if you
Oh,
cannot
yeah.
remember what you did the night before.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Try waking up and
That
having
means
nice.
you actually, that was alcohol poisoning at that
Yeah.
point.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I rode the fence for a while, bro.
Well, I'm glad that you've kicked that.
God's got my
seen
back. I
people
just have to listen
go
to
right
him.
off the rails.
You just got to listen to God. He's always there for you, though. That's all I can say about that.
I agree. I agree with that.
79.
Oh, I thought 79 left, or I might not have said a few of the things I said.
That's all right. I can always ban her if she gets too obnoxious.
She was saying that you said bad things about me earlier.
Yeah,
But
I
then
said you don't have enough multicolored dogs in your pictures. They're too white. You're racist.
Oh man, that's not racist, really.
Nah, because they're multicolored. You actually got 3 colors in there that are vivid. Gray, orange, and white.
What happened here? My computer just hiccuped.
Mine's done that 3 times.
Yeah. Here, that'll add a little more color.
Uh-oh. JM booted himself. Yep, JM booted himself. He'll be back as soon as he figures out that he pushed the wrong button. Or there's a squirrel that tried jumping in the hot tub and got electrocuted and jumped out real fast and hit him and knocked his phone out of his hand. That's a possibility. He is in Canada. Stranger things have happened. We are not talking about you or Canadians.
As soon as my computer glitches, everyone attacks me.
Now we'll talk about you and Canadians. Ah! He's having connectivity issues, I guess. Yeah, he's out. If you don't like what I'm saying, I'll boot you again, damn it. That's for the
So
crowd.
what-
So they're like, what? He booted JM.
What it is every time I try to turn the camera on, computer glitches, and then it says device is not connected.
So you unplugged from the Matrix. Cool.
Yeah. Let me try this again. Let me try.
Yep. That was a good attempt. Give it the old Canadian college try. See, I'm making fun of Canada because he did it now. I wasn't going to. 79, you started this shit. I blame 79.
Okay, well, whatever. You're just gonna have to. You're just gonna have to deal with the lack of diversity on the picture there. Unless I think if I drop down and reboot my computer, if I reboot it, it should be okay. But I got to make sure I see what 79 said first.
It's all good, JM.
That's not too bad.
There, I got some diversity up there.
Nice. Well, I don't know. There's definitely red, white, and blue in my profile picture there.
True that. Hey, speaking of which, what is going on? I have not done any reports on this, but I've seen a lot of reports on this. I just don't want to do any reports on it till I am concrete in what I'm thinking. Is Alberta and Saskatchewan breaking away from Canada?
There's lots of reports of that, and there is a lot of the population, especially in Alberta, that wants to separate from Canada, similar to Quebec too. So there's, I can kind of feel it and sense it, but I'm not a political science student or anything like that. I don't study.
No, I'm not asking that. I was just asking if you knew more than me because it would be more local news for you than for us.
There's where I am near Toronto. I would actually say there's a lot more people because they were voting Liberal.
Yeah.
They want to maintain Canada's sovereignty.
Of course they do.
And they don't want to separate. They want the whole thing to stick together. You know.
Oh.
Yeah. Blackwatch is actually a lot more knowledgeable about what's going on in Canada. He keeps up with it a lot more than I do.
Well, maybe he should tell us what the hell's going on because I heard a report, but I didn't believe it. And I'm not going to talk about it because I didn't believe the report. But apparently there was some poll or something, and those two provinces want to be the 51st and 52nd state. And I was like, nah, I can't report on that because I haven't heard anything even close to that out of other outlets. So I'm not, it was just one outlet.
I would say my guess is if you polled all of the Albertans, you'd probably get about 40 or 50% that want to separate from Canada. And of those, you'd probably find 30% that want to do that specifically to join the States. And the balance want to just be their own sovereign, nation.
Right on.
So I don't think anything's going to happen really quick unless, maybe between Trump and Mark Carney, they'll sew something up that puts it in the works quicker, accelerates it. But other than that, I'd say I don't really think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know how that stuff works because it hasn't happened in our lifetimes. As a matter of fact, the last time we expanded, it was after a war. I think the War of 1812 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we bought Louisiana from the French, so on that note,
saw Brexit happen too, right?
Yeah. Well, on that note, that one Alberta exports most of it, or could export even more energy down to America, and that economic advantage could play into political developments. Most probably will, but I don't know. That's why I don't.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they're thinking.
Yep, and that means more money for them, but.
Because right now what happens is Alberta actually subsidizes most of the other provinces and Canada in general.
That's what I've been hearing too. They send like a lot of money out of their province to support the other side of the country, and they always get voted against, even though it's their money. A majority of it is the general theme I've been getting from what little reporting I've heard of it.
I think it's around 30% of their gross domestic product in Alberta gets paid back in what do they call it? Like not transfer fees, but Blackwatch knows. Hey, Blackwatch.
Hey, how you doing? Listen, you got to stop reading Pierre Poilievre's promises on the back of your milk carton because it's just not so. You got to be kidding me. Where do you get your statistics from?
I like to read both sides. You know, see what both sides say. What do your statistics say?
No, the number of people wanting separation isn't that high. I do look at both sides. I do, to be fair.
So I know in northern Alberta, a lot less of them want to separate, but it's in southern Alberta
Well,
where you get.
Edmonton, it's ever since they made it equitable to get the oil out of the oil sands. You got all these rich guys that don't want 10 or 15, 18% per year. They want 50, 60, 70. Even if they have to create cap right to have slums to suck the blood out. That's true. I just got nailed on somebody's comment, Canada Today. So I put ever since post-war, right, from Diefenbaker on, every conservative sold us out to the States. So somebody puts, imagine if it was the Liberals and all this. So I said I'd have to because I never voted that way.
But you know what? I'd rather be sold out to the States than to China or Russia.
We're not getting sold out. That's the whole point. This Poilievre's got rhetoric just like Trump does. Did you watch him the last time Carney was down there? They just parted on what, Tuesday?
Just in the last day or two, I did not see that yet, other than just a couple like 5-second clips. But I did not watch the whole thing.
No, well, listen to his word. No, seriously, listen to his words very closely. This isn't a point of liberal or conservative. It's a case of a world banker, a world-class banker, compared to a guy that didn't even really graduate college, right? That played more times with his bone spurs. I mean, when you look at it, you know, JM, come on. I had a real argument with somebody who tried to compare the two men. And I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's America. To compare the two men is ridiculous. You know, but that being said, I have fun with it. I don't get too deep, you know.
Well, you know, is that Mark Carney is one of the WEF, World Economic Forum.
What was the first meeting Trump went to? What was his first, more or less, public address?
Probably World Economic Forum.
You got it, where he had nice clean coal. Nice clean coal. How does America get nice clean coal and the rest of us get the dirty black stuff? Come on, Jim. It just, yeah. You know,
Well, I see that a huge part of it is theater, and a even bigger part of it is all pre-planned, right? Like all infrastructure is planned out
Oh yeah,
well in advance.
that's why I'm excited about the $17 trillion worth of investment coming into America, and no one seems to want to anticipate that or put that into their quote unquote charts, because that's never happened before, where one half of your debt gets invested into the country. Look at the debt to GDP ratio if that happens. It's amazing.
Hey, listen, guys, I'm gonna reboot my computer, and I'll see
All
you in a
right.
bit.
Okay. Yeah, as I already put out the disclaimer, I don't keep up with Canada and their politics.
that's why I have to. Neil, I don't have arguments with people, but it frustrates me those that say, I watched a video. How many? One.
That's
You know,
why I didn't want to comment on it, because the only thing I've seen is one or two videos. You know, so I'm not
You-
in a position to
I've been
comment.
around for a very, very long time. When I was born, the auto pact was years, over a decade away. You know, and that's what we've done. We over-reliant, it doesn't matter if it's America, we're over-reliant on one country. And it's geopolitical, it's true. But I don't know, hopefully any country, you know yourself, you can't get dependent on one. It isn't anti-American, it's anti-dependency. But So many Americans say it. Well, you hate us. Listen, did you hear Trump with Carney when
Well,
they
see,
did that? You know,
I see it bigger than that. Like, well, kind of like what James was saying about infrastructure's pre-planned. I think the direction of the world is kind of orchestrated, but not to exact times, because there's a lot of wealth, people, and wealth to be involved in these changes. But
yeah,
if you look at over like my whole lifetime, the creation of the fiat dollar started in 1971 when I was 3, and now it's coming to an end. I'm 57. I was privileged to see this whole thing, but I can also see that when I do the research on it, that they said that it was temporary. Now that gets me studying on the dollar and the history of economics in America, and I see that we've changed dollars several times. And then I start looking at the global situation, and I start doing more research. And after years and years and years, I'm like, okay, this is all pre-planned. There's directions that countries go for 25, 50, 100 years, and then shifts come. And when America shifted to the fiat dollar, we totally got out of manufacturing. It just didn't happen that day.
no,
We gave up manufacturing for a consumer nation. It took like a decade. And,
Yeah.
and that's the pain we felt in the 70s and the 80s, wherever, or 70s and 80s, I guess it was, of inflation, all this other crap, was us losing our manufacturing, going to a consumer-based economy. That same shift is happening again in reverse. And I see that by the $17 trillion investment of only countries that are friendly to America and companies investing this much money into America to make us a manufacturing economy again. And then I did more research and found out the reason, I believe the reason why they're all courting us like this is because of what happened with our nuclear regulatory agency and the production of the micro and small modular reactors with energy, and America controlling the energy market of the world. And I was like, hey, that would change a lot of people's talking points. And that also, what Trump did to the EU with the 17% tariff. I was expecting more of a tariff and them not to say anything, but he gave them a good deal, because I know why they didn't say anything, because I studied the history over 80 years of all this stuff. And so I don't take a micro perspective. I look at the big overall picture and try and put together the puzzle pieces. And what I see with what's going on in our government, from the change of monetary stuff put out, like the ISOs and other things, SWIFT 2.0 coming up, and digital economy coming up, I see it as another shift, a major shift in an economy that'll last probably 50 years, and then something else come around. So I'm not bound faithfully to anything. I see a transition, and I want to, basically I see the wave coming, and I'm either going to duck underneath it, not be affected, or I'm going to get on top of it and go over it. That's my strategy when I see change coming. And I see this change coming. So it affects every country differently, because we're leaving the globalist scheme, going more nationalist.
I mean, myself, the United States wants to go that way that he's suggesting or putting out there. Let it go ahead. I just don't want to be tethered to it. And I don't think anybody would want to be tethered to Canadian directions either. That's I run into that all the time. And finally, I just said it. I said, it's simple. I'm not anti-American. I'm not. But I'm going to tell you something, because my father, I'll say it one time here, he fought, but 20 years old, they dragged him in. He didn't think he'd go in, and he went back because they turned him down, and he got married. He ended up in Belgium. An 88 shell fragment had melted the howitzer plate and almost killed him. And if it wasn't for the underground in Belgium, and I saw the Christmas cards for years, I wouldn't be here. So I'm Antifa. The whole fucking world was Antifa, not yelling at you. Get over it. You know what I mean? They're manufacturing Antifa.
It's all manufactured for economic change.
Exactly. Well, whatever they're Antifa is a concept, and it's got bastardized. It has.
And it's funded right now, and there's other concepts that later on will be funded for a different type of change. If you look at the big picture, in my opinion.
A lot of Americans go on about the Canadian truckers convoy thing, But the whole truth was it was being funded. It was,
Yeah.
and they knew it.
Mhm.
Just on the west coast of the United States when it closed, and they threatened that guy, don't go public. He did. And he said the money's been stolen, millions, by the organizers. And, you know, Canada let it go for a while. They let them do their thing, and then they said, okay, fine, you're interfering with this, but they knew the bank accounts where it was coming from. And they weren't going to let it escalate any further. So there, I mean,
Yeah, my uncle and my cousin both had their bank accounts shut down because they donated.
yeah, but that's what it was, Jay. It wasn't one of these GoFundMe on YouTube. There was big money behind it, and they didn't have the best interest in my opinion. Nobody will ever know. But CSIS and the RCMP, I'm sure, were doing their homework, tracking the money. You know,
Well, here's something a lot of people don't know. During the last administration, the organization and the family, the Trump organization, all their employees and everything, had 300 of their bank accounts frozen. They got locked out of 300 bank accounts that they used for business during the last administration.
yeah, because they were moving money. I mean, one hand they turn around as Ukraine's nothing but money laundering. But then when you have an effort like this being money laundered and everything else for other reasons, all of a sudden it's interfering with your freedom. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking you're blaming the wrong people, but I understand the concept.
Well, the individual, like his uncle on that, the people on the ground.
Well, the thing is, the last administration was the ones getting paid by that country, not the now administration. The now administration doesn't like what the last administration did, and the last administration accepted money, not the now administration. And when the last administration was accepting the money is when the current administration's bank accounts were froze. So it's exact opposite of what you said from what I see.
Well, quite often I get Americans say, would you rather have, what's her name, in there? And I said, I didn't say that. Open border concept is a stupid idea in any country. You know, I'm just,
Well, most definitely.
you know, moving on. You know, an interesting thing, 1950, there was talk of a Senator John F. Kennedy interfering with Canadian politics. Never proven. Along came C.D. Howe and all of them. Post-Second World War, Canada had the third largest navy in the world, and we didn't rely on Britain. Then all of a sudden, Diefenbaker got elected. And I worked at de Havilland Aircraft, and we had the A.B. Rowe headquarters building, Avro Aero. I worked with men that worked on that. But the point was, they needed Gordon Campbell needed $400 million. That's what they asked for to keep it going. Well, he was a drinker on the job, and Diefenbaker was a teetotaler. Anyway, he went to Ottawa, and Diefenbaker said, no, I need $400 million for social programs. So he killed the Avro Aero, which to me was under I know the whole story of it, which was under U.S. pressure. But what I didn't know was JFK was a senator. He wasn't president yet. But the Senate and Congress tried to pressure Canada to have U.S. nuclear weapons on our soil, which were turned down. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? I didn't know that. They almost demanded to put nuclear weapons on Canadian soil. Diefenbaker said no. So that little piece of John F. Diefenbaker, I agree with. I remember those days. Everybody was waiting for the news every day of the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was, but anyway, that's the point. I didn't know. I'm all against Diefenbaker, but I didn't know he did that right. So CJM, I try to look at both sides. You know what I mean?
Well, it looks like you're pretty studied up on your history as well.
As well, you should be, especially if you're Canadian.
Well, I worked there. I didn't actually, I flunked history, so I had to repeat 11 to go to a 4-year course because they wouldn't let me change. But some of it was live. You know, the moon landing, JFK assassination. That was what was on television all the time. But you ever hear of the Northwood Project?
Northwind?
Northwood project.
Northwood. No, I don't think so anyway.
JFK refused to sign it. The American military wanted to kill American citizens and blame it on Cuba.
But
Just look up the Northwood Project, and that's what was going on at the time. That was 1960. I think it was 60 or 62.
Oh shit! What did I do?
But
Here we go.
this is what I said to some people. If it was reversed, would Trump sign the Northwood Project? Yeah, I think he would. But what does it matter? I'm too old to worry about it in this situation. But I try to look at it both sides. There's something called ground news, and if the channel goes through that, I have a tendency to pay attention more, because every story's listed. Is it a right-wing publication, left-wing? You know what I mean? And it seems to in politics, whatever. But yeah, the history of Canada, 1840, that created Upper and Lower, the province of Canada, 1867, 1870 was a treaties, which was out in Alberta. 1870 began the treaty conversations. So Alberta, if Danielle Smith wants to separate from Canada, I'll give her $10 for the plane fare. Wherever it's south of the 49th she wants to go, I'll help her. I don't.
well, the fact is that Canada and United States have worked very, very closely together on a plethora of
Yes.
different projects, initiatives, all sorts of things. And what do they call it? Symbiotic. Like there's a lot of mutual strengths and benefits. It makes sense for Canada and the States to be very, very, very close partners,
Well,
as we have been for quite some time. And I don't see a huge reason for that to change. But a lot of what I've seen, being pushed through the media is, that there's this, in quotes, trade war, and like there's all this friction and all that sort of thing. And I think a lot of it's wasted energy.
I think it's a lot of misdirection.
Yeah.
if you put it in day-to-day life, JM, I look at it this way. I don't know about your relationship history, but if you ever get involved with somebody very deeply and you love them, they mean a lot to you, and then you're taken for granted, you might as well end it right there. End it right there. And I think the parallel is right there. Taken for granted. Either party.
It could be. And like in any relationship, everyone for the most part has their own best interest at heart. It's very, very rare in any relationship that there's the one party is actually looking out more for the other party than themselves.
Well, are we talking American politics or Canadian? Before I step in?
Anything. I was just talking
Any
like
relationship.
general.
Nobody should take anybody for granted, whether it's political, you know what I mean,
No.
like allies or personal relationships.
Yeah, it's the opposite of working together.
Well, I know the EU took advantage of America and totally took it for granted. And that's why they accepted the 17% tariff without argument.
Well, that all, the Kuzma thing and all that, 85% was not being taxed at all. So, I mean, like my father worked for Customs and Excise all my life until he, had to retire. The book was over 3 inches thick. So I kind of know something about duty, customs, excise, right?
Yes.
We did. And you think law is intricate? The tariff it's an incredibly intricate of you know what I mean? And it's like a spider's web.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's created, how do you ever get it out? But I think Carney's a very intelligent man, and very well, his history, JM.
Yeah. He is, but I don't
Well, you kind of,
or anyone else.
well, he's born in the Northwest Territories, moved to, Calgary, Edmonton rather, went to Harvard, got the PhD, worked for I don't think it was, um, whatever the big banks down there, but, he quit that. Bank of Canada, Bank of England, the International Monetary Funds and things. The guy knows his stuff for being 60 years old. And
He does, but he's got a lot of conflicts of interest too, my friend.
see, he had 6.3 million put away in blind trust. I mean, look at Donald Trump. My sons are working on my business, and I've made 3.1 billion for being the president, but I don't get paid because I give that away. I give away what, 400 and some odd thousand a year to get 3 point some odd billion. That sounds pretty good.
It's true, and
they're all in it for that. They're all in it for that. I'm just taking who's the best. I'm very suspicious of like I heard the meeting that Carney said something about $1 trillion investment. And I'm thinking, you son of a bitch, But what I found out was, to date, they've invested $1 trillion, and we'd like to invest, $8 trillion over the next 5 years. But I think what he was saying was, but at the rate you're going, Donald, you're not going to get 1 cent. Carney's when he gave up the digital service tax, I thought, what the hell are you doing? I'm not sure I trust you anymore, but it was a ploy.
yeah, I don't trust him at all. I don't trust any career politician.
Well, are you aware of Brian Mulroney?
I trust Neil though. Yeah, Brian Mulroney was very, very famous. He did a lot of good things, but he also screwed a lot of stuff up too.
You tried to find the Henri Schreiber involvement when he sued for $3 million because the RCMP didn't have enough. When he went to the States, didn't have enough evidence. You can't find it on the internet. I tried. So part of the plea bargain and everything else to settle the case must have been get rid of everything. And the son of a bitch is dead. Good. I hope he buried him with his butt in the air, like the meat and 9 iron, right? He was dirty to him. Dirty as, so it's a politician. I don't care if he's conservative or whatever. He was dirty.
Yeah, I think that government's way, 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 way too big. They should just get out of everybody else's business.
Yeah.
Let the people be the people.
Here in America, the past 40 years, we've created several 3-letter agencies and grown the government to where we have 23.6 million employees of the federal government. So losing a couple million would be sweet. Not for them, but for everyone else.
Number one employer in the States.
And that's the number one economic growth factor. So put it together. Think about it. Okay, so the government's growing the economy. Wow, is that natural growth? Hell no. It's manufactured growth.
Kind of take your
By the government.
kind of take your kid to work today and get him a job. Carney apparently got rid of 25% of the federal government, which, and any government's too big.
Well, the thing about it is contentment kills economy. If you take 23 million working Americans that could be very productive, and instead of leashing them to a federal paycheck and a guaranteed lifestyle, they might have to become creative and create new stuff and open their own businesses and be innovative and actually grow the economy.
Well,
so you're taking about 1/6 of the working population and making them content and not wanting to do better. The want to do better economically is a true economic system. If you're relying mostly on the government, it's not a true economic system. It's a government controlled system is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, like some say in the States about some of the workers, I'll take my father. He was federal government, right? For since post-war, since he pretty well in that area. But the point was, when he had to retire at 65, he had over a year's sick time coming. The man never took a thing off. So as much as you say wasted paychecks, there's people that, it, they tried to do the job right, and they tried to do it well. And I'm sure it happens in the States too. Not all government employees, go to work, and sit there and smoke cigarettes or whatever else. To me, there's some very dedicated people. Otherwise, it'd be so screwed up. We're lucky to get your paycheck once a month when you retire. And JM, you ever hear of Charlie Angus? He's part of the Midas Touch Canada thing now.
Charlie Angus, no.
He was federal MP for 21 years, and he's
Okay.
doing it's a Antifa thing. But the point was, he mentioned one time about Saskatchewan going to healthcare. So I put in there, look up on YouTube, CBC Prairie Giant Tommy Douglas story. And all of a sudden, the last one he put up, he went on for about 15 minutes about the history of Tommy Douglas and what he accomplished, which, as I told you before, was the healthcare, Canada pension. He was never prime minister, but he was a Baptist. But the point was, I don't know where it was some of the history of things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That, like you, I kind of judged you. I'll be honest. I kind of thought, how could, not that you were the poster boy for it. I don't mean that, but how little interest or knowledge. But you mentioned something about your schooling, so I can understand that. You know what I mean? Well, our lives are not always, regulated.
Well, depending on when you went to school, where you went, the
Yeah.
curriculum can be a lot different. So the history that they teach can be a whole lot different. So it's really up to each individual person to really, really dig in beyond what you just get
That-
formal.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
I was privileged that my father was in the Navy, and he was in the Pacific or the Atlantic Fleet. So we were stationed every 2 years, new country, and I had to adjust, adapt, and overcome all kinds of. Looking at it now, it's great crap I had to figure out as a young kid and put everything together while learning. I mean, from different country schooling system and stuff. So I was really blessed. My dad might not have liked it. The family might not have liked it, but man, the education I got was so unique. I came back to the States, and the schools here in America, I was bored all the way up until I quit 10th grade. They just didn't teach me anything because they were so far behind.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like talking about it. What I did for a living, I fell into. I went for a truck driving job, which they didn't. I was driving 10 tons at 14. But anyway, I've often said university graduate, that's a certificate with the propensity to learn, not knowledge. A number of university graduates that I dealt with and reported to were a bunch of clowns. That's mine. They couldn't have a social tea party with tea and crumpets, right? Without, sorry.
It depends. It's going to just be one part of your overall knowledge and education, and it's a very, very expensive part for anyone that does that. But you know what, guys, I gotta take off here because I'm actually dog sitting, so I got a couple things I got to do.
Well, you know what they say, JM, take off, eh?
Take off. Hey, don't be a hoser, eh?
Yeah. What's the matter, you? But anyway, I thought I'd say that I could, it's just, like I said, where did it come from? I'll sum it up, you know what I mean? That we accept it. Canada pension, the whole thing, just like they do in the States with SSI. Where did it ever start? Somebody had a pretty good idea, I think.
I think it started from the insurance industry, right? It's all their actuaries, and they figured out a way to make money on it. And it's a very profitable thing for them. I don't think the people are benefiting as nearly as much as they could be.
Search YouTube for CBC Prairie Giant, which is about the man, the Tommy Douglas story. He came up with it. He came up with the idea. He was a Baptist minister. And one of his things was the Canada Pension Fund.
Yeah. And it's all money, right? Because they're saying, you give us your money now off your paycheck and we'll manage it for you at at a fee. And then they give you two options, right? One is a defined contribution plan, which says you're going to put away this set amount of money, but who knows what it'll be worth at the end. And the other is a defined benefit plan, which is where they say the amount that you have to add is going to vary from time to time, but we guarantee what the value will be at the end.
No, but
And that's how they set them up.
what I'm talking about is the whole concept of having something come in when you retire. How it works and how it gets invaded.
I think that, yeah,
You should you should have watched my live stream, the second one that got taken down. It explained exactly how that works. That's why I look at things differently, and that's probably why YouTube gave me a strike over it.
So we got to even be careful talking about this.
Yeah. So yeah, please let's watch out for that one because they're keeping an eye on me for.
I'll tell you what, though, guys, it's always I always learn when I hear and speak with Blackwatch and with Neil. And Neil, you got a ton of really, really great subscribers and people in the chat here too. I got to take off though, so I hope everyone has a good evening. I may see you later.
All right, I'm kind of going to end it. I only wanted to go for about a half hour anyhow, just to show the Treasury Department and saying what you're saying. But it was good conversation, so I kept it going. Very nice to meet you personally, Blackwatch. Go ahead and take off, JM. Don't let me hold you up.
See you guys.
Don't forget, no pineapple on the pizza.
Oh, most definitely not. That's not pizza. That's Hawaiian stuff.
That's Hawaiian, what they call it, Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
Well, I could see it because you have like applesauce with pork chops. It just kind of cuts that, but not altogether. Like, oh.
You have to have applesauce with pork chops, or the pork chops don't get eaten.
Yeah, it just works. But I could see it cutting kind of the fat off the meat.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah, never did. And you have to drown the whole thing in applesauce.
Yeah, but in any event, yeah, not on pizza. But yeah, it's I never took a course. I never took the job I did. Like I said, I never had a summer off till I was 18, almost 18, and my dad said September's coming. So it's kind of like, I'm not going to throw you out, but what are you going to do? So I thought I'd drive truck, and I ended up in what's called IT. Yeah,
right on. So,
No.
and that's another thing. Everyone takes different paths, and they gain different information and knowledge from the path they took.
I regret it. But then again, I regret being on the road, being a truck driver, looking back.
Dude, I left the house at 17, joined the military, came back in like 19, hung out in the town for a little bit, became an iron worker, and left town, never looked back.
I have a lot of respect for them. If you look at the CN Tower, when they were Sikorsky trying to drop the tower on top, a lot of the iron workers were native. And you look at them walking around.
I've worked in the Northeast. They call me a Skywalker.
Yeah.
The Indians do, because I was a connector back east, and I slammed it, baby. Speaking, we're sorry to interrupt. I actually did some amazing crap today on the job site. Kind of screwed myself for job-wise for longevity, but whatever. There was this whole big section of the roof, heavy iron, that had a 4-bolt connection all the way along the side of this job that all the young kids went through. And I'm, I guess, like on the cleanup crew. And they sent me up there and said, Neil, bolt all that up if you can. And I guess they expected it to take a day or two, and I got it done in 4 hours. I took my sleever bar up there, man. I was moving tons of iron with my bare hands because I know about leverage and I know math. And this is very important. Everyone needs to learn math and geometry. It comes in handy even as an iron worker, because I was doing things they didn't think was possible from a guy as small as me. And I was doing it faster than they ever expected. So I'm giving myself a attaboy. We got off work a half hour early because of it.
Well, I remember it took them 2 or 3 weeks because it'd be a what's the word? A calm day. Mm-hmm. And yet the thing kept swinging, and it was kind of, where you have the, like a little eaglets or something on a building, say in New York, and the camera catches it. And everybody comes home from work and how's the eaglets doing? Well, that's what they're putting the tower on top of the CN tower, the transmission. Everybody came home. They got it on yet? No, want to watch? But it was scary. I've been up on that thing with the rotating restaurant. You look through that's disturbing. But anyway, iron workers are something else, and they're done up. And
I've been doing it for about 37 years total. 30 years out here. No, 35 years. 35 years. 4 years back east and 31 years out here in the Union.
Yeah. But it's, would you do that? I don't know. I've often looked back and what if I just said I'm going to go to like Ryerson Polytech or, you know what I mean? Just screw around, the education till you figure out what you really want to do. Because you're a child at 18.
I still don't know what I want to do. I've been doing ironwork just to keep myself busy. Actually, I do know what I'm going to do. I'm going to transition to it at the beginning of next year. Working for myself, doing my own thing. I finally figured it out after 57 years what I want to do.
Yes, there you go. But it's, everybody thinks IT, you make all kinds of money. Believe me,
Man, that's a stupid thought process. Look at what they said about programmers. Oh, we need lots of programmers. What's AI doing? Taking all the programmers' jobs. You never listen to your government. When they take away vocational schools, learn vocational skills.
Well, I don't know if I should get all into it because it's a personal thing, but I ended up multiple mainframe security, which is a whole lot more than password. Everybody said, "Oh, change your path." That's the easy part of it. But I made a suggestion for what they call a session manager. Because you go to a terminal, you see like the BTAM screen. You make whatever and you sign in. But I saw it somewhere with the security software. And really what it is that's what you see. You sign in and it generates each one. You could have 20, 30 applications, whatever, transactions and databases. And you just hit a toggle switch. It's a virtual terminal. Long story short, they said to me, it's not a good idea. I reported to software that. Then all of a sudden, you're on a committee of 3. I said, what for? A session manager from California. But long story short, Neil, the section head, whatever you want to call it, for systems, for software, wrote an exit, assembler. You read it right to left. It's like a language, clear register 015, And at the end of it, it wasn't working. I was getting blamed for it. So I took a look at it. I took a guess. Load address 7 to load address 7. That's like, here's a letter, take it to Main Street, but I'm not going to tell you what number. So I said, this is wrong. And I sent it to New Jersey, second level support. I didn't even get away from the type, whatever the thing is you send it with. And they circled it. They said, that's wrong. Change it to load address 7. You think he'd do it, Neil? He doesn't make mistakes. He went to university. Until I held a meeting and closed doors and the 4-letter words went. And the language and everything else. I said, you do realize that an external auditor can't trace me. I could do this. You know what I mean? At the politics and everything else. And at the end of the day, he stood and I got downsized. You know what I mean?
Economics is numbers, brother. If they don't like the way the numbers are going, they'll whitewash it and make them something else.
But something, they got sold to Boeing, then they got sold to Bombardier, but it more or less started in 1920. The company, more or less. September 2022, closed the doors forever. The stuff I saw, the waste, you know what I mean? So
economic cycles. Countries make billionaires for a reason.
Yeah.
I'll point at Elon Musk. Look how useful a billionaire he's been for the government.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that Trump's in there now. Whoever the fuck was in there, he'd still be doing the same thing because it's that time in history for the waste and fraud to get cucks for Just it's the economic shift that's coming that I've been talking about. It's just time. That's why I ran for president, because I knew what was coming. It didn't matter who was in office.
Yeah.
It's cycles. It's long-term cycles.
Yeah.
And most people don't live long enough to see it. And I started off this conversation, not with you, but with JM, when I said I was lucky got currency that started in 1971 and it's coming to an end. And when they started it, they said it would come to an end, and they gave a number of 2% inflation. Well, 2 times 50 is 100, and means anything more than 50 years, and it's ended.
Yeah.
So it's been coming. It's all this other stuff is just whitewash crap that they're changing. I don't know. They're probably stealing a lot of money through whatever means they can, but we're changing the dollar.
Yeah.
That's, it's going to happen. I was looking for a picture. I got a picture of actually what the new dollar looks like. I saw actually a whole set of the 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 new dollar bills that they're going to come out with. So it's just that time in history. And if you take things from a far back look like that, the little nuances of things that happened, unfortunately, to people's lives and are greatly significant in that fact. I'm not diminishing that. But if you look past that and see the bigger picture of what's going on, whatever happened, doesn't matter who actually did it, because if they didn't do it, as like in Kennedy, if they didn't do it, they get rid of them, get someone in there that does. That's always been, that's a similarity, because economics is basically, the economics we've been sold is a fraud. It always has been throughout history. If your monetary system ends in a collapse, it was fraudulent to begin with. And no one's learned that lesson yet. And we all still want to play these economic games and think it's going to work out when we've got 5,000 years of history that tells you how to work it out, and no one's tried it yet.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm not going to say who it is, because we don't both know the channel owner. And this is years ago, 5 years ago, over that. I ended up over there somehow. But anyway, someone came up about, remember when NVIDIA was going to Texas? Nobody really knew why, how. And his grandfather started teaching economics in 29 and retired in 60. And he came up, and I just had it, I just like the whole thing about the economy there, what was being done by the administration. Nice word. And I told him, I said to him, look, Jim, that was his name, Jim. And I said, because he's in the economics a lot, you know what I mean? He invests in things. And I said, when in the history, from your grandfather till now, did one man almost crash the stock market? He says in 2008. I said, no, you can't go 29. You can't go one man knowingly almost crashed the stock market. But anyway, I couldn't talk to him anymore. I said, I'm sick of hearing you because you've got blinkers on. There's no reason for the stock market to be going up and down like that.
No, that's why I pointed out 2 stocks earlier on the show. I don't know if you were here at the time. Both of them are at basically zero and have been for almost 20 years each.
I heard that part.
Yeah, and it breaks Wall Street's own rules because of what you were just talking about. They put companies that are non-performing after 5 years, they pull them off so that they can keep that market high, that number, whatever it is, the stock exchange number of 46,000. They want it to keep growing, so they take old companies off that aren't performing, put new companies in, and that's how they do it. But these 2 companies have been non-performing for close to 20 years, and they're still there. To me, that's a tell.
Yeah, I remember there was one, I think they had 53 employees, and they're around $30, $40. And somebody said, I wish I had done that. When in 1 day or 2 days, it jumped over $2,000 a share. And you think to yourself, this isn't normal, right? There's something wrong. And of course, it crashed again. It was kind of pump and dump type of.
Here's, I'm going to show something here. This is one I suggested also. I suggested around, I guess, 22. I I don't know how well people can see this. We'll go with Max. This company started in July 2021 at $10. Basically stayed around that whole thing, stayed. And then about around here, I started talking about it. Actually, it was before there. It was August. Ooh, no. Yeah, I guess somewhere around here, I started talking about it. Can you guys see that 1328 for October 18th? Look at that rise.
Yeah.
All time, 1,274% up. And most of that happened in the past, well, hell, 12 months. From October 4th of 2024, it was 1119. It's not, well, it just passed October 4th, and it's at, wow, 138 from, yeah. So in a year, it went up, blew gold away. Totally blew all the everything. It blew crypto away, blew everything away. That's why I tell people don't have blinders on, man, because there's things out there that blow away whatever your preference of stock is, or preference of crypto, or preference of metals. But when you look at them independently, you can pick out the jewels again, like I showed in those stocks that were at zero for over 20 years. Those, in my opinion, are jewels. They break all of the institution's own financial rules to still be there. I don't see where it's profitable for the greedy sharks to keep that going and not make money off of it. So why is it still there? Apparently the greedy sharks are real greedy, because the play I see on those is a lot of payout when the time's right, and the time's coming up to be right. MJNA is another one. All the documentation, legal documentation to take marijuana and reschedule it from a class 1 to a class 3 has been done. The only thing stopping it from actually happening is the Democrats. And right now with the shutdown, they're losing all their power. So after the shutdown comes back, I imagine within a month or two, Trump's going to come on TV and say, hey, we've just reclassified marijuana from class 1 to a class 3 drug. And that's going to open up the floodgates bigger than crypto, bigger than the stock market, bigger than precious metals, because everyone's grandmother knew someone that smoked pot. And now we're like 80 years beyond that, 70 years beyond that, and people are still smoking pot and interested in it. It's a bigger market cap than crypto, stock market, and precious metals. So when it becomes legal, right now there are so many financial institutions frothing at the mouth to be able to legally throw money at that industry for the growth potential. So if you throw a couple 20 or 30 billion dollars at an industry, the market cap is significantly raised overnight. And that'll happen when Trump comes on TV and makes his announcement. That's why I suggest buying that MJNA, because it's basically at zero.
That's another thing I get in trouble with community, if you will, because if there's medical advantages to it, I've seen it for myself. I got involved with somebody whose girlfriend, if you will, for many years, got cancer. And you couldn't eat, anything. But outside of that, I quit all that crap before I turned 18. This recreational thing, I've gotten in so many arguments with people. Well, couple came at me, you know what I mean? And, I was making $80,000 a year as a manager, and they fired me. And I said, yeah, because you couldn't tie up your Velcro shoelaces anymore. Like, I'd fire you too. And he got all pissed off. But it is true. Look at it. The number of people growing and smoking their own is every time you turn around.
There's a lot of money in that market. It just hasn't hit Wall Street yet.
But when somebody goes into the gas station and you're trying to fill up a Tesla with gas, you know what I mean? You do question the intelligence, right? And it's God, I don't.
Well, I hate to cut you off, but I got to go to work tomorrow, and I started this stream 2 hours ago. I haven't had my bath after work because I came in, saw that one program, and I wanted to get that information out quick, and forewent all my after work activities. So I still need to do that and catch up with the day and whatnot. So I got to cut this off. I apologize for not letting you speak more. You're more than welcome. Anytime I'm live, I always have the link pinned to the top. I do not deny anyone coming up. So next time I'm live, you're more than welcome to come back up.
I
But,
appreciate that. And have a good night. And I kind of prefer the bath too. You know what I mean? You're gonna go to
Right on.
sleep in the bathtub and shave, you know, at night, because in the morning you can rotten shift work. But anyway, thank you, Neil. And
Not a problem. It was nice speaking with you and having you up here. And everyone have a great week. And it'll probably be Sunday before I go live again.
okay, good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night, guys. Thank you.